You are listening to the Football Diehards podcast with your hosts, Justin Lonero and Bob Harris, sponsored by DraftKings. Sign up now using promo code DIEHARDS, DIEHARDS. Make a first-time $5 deposit, and you'll receive a free $3 ticket.
Hello and welcome to the Football Diehards podcast. I'm your host, Justin Lonero, on Twitter at Justin Lonero, along with my co-host, as always, Mr. Bob Harris, on Twitter at Football Diehard. Our executive producer is on the line tonight, Mr. Kyle Dvorchak, on Twitter at FF Kyle the Kid. Men, it is week 16. Unbelievable. Mr. Harris, what is shaking in Albuquerque, New Mexico tonight?
My phone is shaking because it always shakes. A lot of roster moves today, a lot of stuff going on. So we'll jump into it here. We'll say hello to Kyle, who the volume report is out today on the site, Kyle Dvorchak. Check that out. Comes out first thing every week. It's the way we start the week at footballdiehards.com. And so go read it right now. Kyle, how are you?
Not bad. A championship week. I have, you wouldn't believe how many teams I have that are doing so great. And, don't specifically ask about any of them, but it's going so well. And I'm fine. I'm also fine on the inside. I started out in almost 30 season-long leagues. I'm going to make it to the championship game in one. It's been a lustrous year. Unlike for, Justin Lonero, who actually is having a lustrous year today, no less, Tuesday. He was on with Adam Rodas on FNSTY radio. You can probably find that on their site and listen to his spot. How'd that go, Justin?
Went pretty good. Rapid fire. There was quite a bit of banter about, can you still play Adam Thielen after a dud? Is Josh Allen real heading into week 16? And Leonard, what do we do with Leonard Fournette at this point in time? It's been an interesting fantasy year, gentlemen, from a season-long standpoint, because, typically players do come out of the woodwork, but there's been some injuries late. We saw what happened with Kareem Hunt. Keenan Allen has got the Q tag, and things hurt. I think fantasy football can certainly be a heartbreaker, and this season has broken some hearts, particularly in the last couple of weeks.
Well, that's why we play DFS, right? So right. We can avoid all the pitfalls. It fixes everything that's wrong with season long, but there are still some people playing in season long. And so let's just jump through a couple of items if people are looking to pick players up. You mentioned Josh Adams, who kind of tweaked his back a little bit, but Wendell Smallwood came in, got the hot hand. Trustworthy or not, Kyle Dvorchak?
Trustworthy, no. He can still provide value for you, but like you said, it could very much turn into a hot hand situation. Despite Nick Foles making a great playoff run, I'm still not sure if he can fuel this offense to what we saw last week, but I do have some faith in him. But just the general instability in the situation and the offense, can you trust him? Definitely not. But is he worth a desperation play? If you have to, I guess.
Right. Deuce Staley told us this, the running backs coach there told us this after the last big Josh Adams game when someone asked him, is he the guy now? No. The hot hand is the guy. And so that's something to avoid. So there are a couple other guys that are maybe coming into good situations. Jamal Williams, with Aaron Jones done for the year on injured reserve, seems to have a very clear path to workload. Kalen Ballage with Frank Gore out, does he pick up those touches? And if he does, can his big play ability make him a factor? I guess those are the guys that we're looking at first and foremost, Justin. Which one of those guys would you feel more comfortable with?
I do like Kalen Ballage. In fact, I think I did draft him in the draft really late.
How you doing in that league?
Well, I did not make the playoffs. Emil has the top 4 teams making, but I did finish a couple games over 500, which was interesting. Wide receiver heavy, but I did have Kalen Ballage, bigger back. We can all be in agreement that Kenyon Drake, I don't think, was utilized the way he probably should have been this year. Adam Gase has just misused him. He's a talent.
All of us agree but Adam Gase, and he's the only one who matters. He's done this to us before.
That's true. Yep.
But would it be enough did you see enough in this one game to put some faith in him, or would you rather have a Jamal Williams knowing and look, there's another layer to that too, right, Justin? It's the possibility of Aaron Rodgers has got a tweaked groin. Do they keep him in? I mean, it's multi-layered on both these guys, right?
Yeah, and we were able, in fact, I drafted Jamal Williams also in the draft book league this year, and he was a rental because Aaron Jones was suspended for the first 2 games of the regular season. So I drafted him late based on the volume that he would receive early. So I'm fine. I think I'm fine with Williams. We love Aaron Rodgers' offenses. Hasn't been a typical Aaron Rodgers offense, but I think Williams will get the football close to 20 times. I think a little more ambiguous with Kalen Ballage, given that Kalen Drake is in the equation, but it's nice to see. You could have both of these guys, and they could take you to the promised land week 16. It's interesting how this works, but Miami's been it's been odd. It's been a committee. I think that the Packers were going to have a committee with Ty Montgomery early on. We were all in agreement that Williams is going to get the football. Aaron Jones is going to get the football. Ty Montgomery's out. Now Aaron Jones is on IR, done. So they're both going to get close to the ball between 15 and 20 times this week, and I'll pay for the volume.
Right. And, some of the other guys that are going to be bandied about as the week progresses, depending on the health of Todd Gurley, will be Justin Davis, John Kelly, and suddenly C.J. Anderson thrown into the mix. My guess, just as another body in case Justin Davis, who is day-to-day as well. Gurley seems likely to play. It's a phenomenal matchup, Kyle. What if you were running in the game, Gurley's ruled out, totally hypothetical situation I'm slapping you in the face with, and could you play a John Kelly in that kind of matchup in a championship game?
Yeah, I would love to. If I had, say, if you have Gurley right now and you don't have John Kelly, it's the final week. You have no more. Those your entire bench will not matter. It's not like you've got anything else to play for. You need to be picking him up right now because we saw this with Kansas City. It's just plug in the next guy. We've seen it with Pittsburgh. All these great offenses, plug in the next guy. That's all that matters. Yep. Running back is so much, especially in fantasy, a product of the situation around them, the offense they're on, the game script, all these things they don't control. And for Los Angeles, all those things are going to be great against Arizona. You're obviously you want to be on this offense. And guess what? They're probably going to crush Arizona. They're going to have a great lead. If for some reason Gurley does not play, which even if he is mostly healthy, you could understand them not wanting to run him. In a game they're probably going to win, where they're already locked to make the playoffs. Yeah, he doesn't have to be, like 50-50 to not play. He could be 75, he could be 80 and just say, it doesn't really matter. Don't play him. Let's keep him healthy. If John Kelly is the starter, he is absolutely a plug-and-play, locked-in, top running back on the slate.
It just, sometimes the red herring guys that, we talk about, like the C.J. Anderson shows up in Houston. I mean, Alfred Blue's been the guy when it's not Lamar Miller. Do you think that it would suddenly become Deonta Foreman, who has yet to play, take a snap in anger, Justin? Or will you be outsmarting yourself for you to go in that direction?
Man, well, how funny would that be? I feel like we've been waiting a couple of years to see Deontay Foreman. They're going to ease him in. Nasty, nasty injury that he sustained. We know what Alfred Blue is, and he's not much.
Yeah, we're not excited by it, but that's the problem. We sometimes the flashy new thing. Look, some of it is a fantasy thing we do as owners all the time. I do it all the time. It's the optimism of the unknown. We don't know how bad he's going to suck because we haven't seen him yet, right?
Yeah,
we kind of have seen enough blue to I don't really like that. So let me try the new flavor. The shiny new thing would be fantastic. Yep. Isn't always the case. Some other guys that, might be out there on your waiver wire you want to look for, Nick Foles, obviously. If somebody had told me last week that it was going to be that Nick Foles who showed up, I would have been more interested in him, for crying out loud. Maybe, the best you get out of him is his connection with Alshon Jeffrey. I don't know. Maybe that's all you hope for from him. But Josh Allen may still be out there. Derek Carr might be out there. So there's some options out there for you. Also at running back, keep in mind the Seahawks picked up Bo Scarborough off Jacksonville's practice squad. Kind of maybe an indication that Rashad Penny's not going to be ready to go. So I don't know if you want to go down as far as Mike Davis working in a PPR league, maybe behind Carson. Maybe. I mean, J.D. McKissick's back as well, so I'm not getting too far in front. But Buffalo, again, there's one. Keith Ford is the guy who turned up now. This would be like the totally most speculative play ever, and maybe a guy that we'll talk about in the DFS segment because it'd be hard to play him in a season long. But he did get the bulk of the carries. Marcus Murphy's out. on IR. If there is no LaShawn McCoy, if there is no Chris Ivory again this week, and we don't know if there will or won't be, that'd be interesting. Wide receivers, Robert Foster, another Buffalo Bill, Deshaun Hamilton, Antonio Callaway. Do we all want a piece of this narrative game with Baker Mayfield ready to stick a knife in Hugh Jackson for showing up back in Cleveland as a Cincinnati Bengal?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. Baker Mayfield has been unleashed, gentlemen. I love the play. And we can talk about him when we get to the DFS segment. At home, you know, this is a Bengals team that has been an absolute dumpster fire. Is he going to throw 4 touchdowns? Probably not. But you'll get 250 yards, 2 touchdowns, and his production. I don't know that I want to spend $6,100 on him on DraftKings, but in a season-long league, absolutely.
Is there a prop bet on whether he gives a ball to Hugh Jackson during the game? I don't know. I might take that action. At tight end, in the sea of mediocrity, Ian Thomas kind of gave us a flop last night. In fact, Chris Manhurst was the scoring tight end, but only because Christian McCaffrey was throwing the football. Because Cam can't actually throw anymore. It's just it's not working for him. So Blake Jarwin, Kyle, go.
I guess. I mean, we saw, I believe, last week.
7 targets each of the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, we saw last week, I believe was the lowest scoring week for tight ends, maybe in the top 12, but it was Justin, you have to come up with a phrase less than sea of mediocrity, because mediocrity implies average to maybe below average, maybe a negative connotation. Last week it was awful. It was truly abysmal. And in the sea of mediocrity, whatever Justin comes up with, am I excited to play Blake Jarwin? No, but like you said, Bob, 7 targets the past 2 weeks. That is an oasis, a life raft in this sea of mediocrity we have going on. So I think he's a viable play. Am I excited? No, but I do think he's a great waiver wire pickup if you need to get to a tight end like him.
There we have it. That's the waiver wire section. We've set you up for great success in your season longs. I'm sure you'll be hitting up Justin Kyle on Twitter to get all your lineup questions filled in. But now we're going to switch into DFS mode. Justin, what does DraftKings have in store?
Well, if you sign up now using our promo code DIEHARDS, DIEHARDS, you get a free $3 ticket. A lot of people are already signed up for DraftKings. The idea is if you're not, you can certainly get hooked up. Just contact us on Twitter. Any questions, and we'll be more than happy to help you. It's a perfect time to sign up for DraftKings because, as we've discussed, you're out of your season-long leagues. Okay, what do I do now? Best ball season is around the corner, but not quite here. Sign up for DraftKings. Plenty of different games there, head-to-heads, 50-50s, large tournaments. Again, we'll hook you up using our promo code DIEHARDS.
All right, and so let's jump into that. By the way, the best ball is going to start earlier this year. Just I have it on good authority. The folks at Fanball have something cooking for February, so that'll be interesting as well. And of course, we'll be playing all that. But for right now, let's pick some DFS stars. We'll start with you, Kyle. Who you like at quarterback?
Quarterback, we talked about him earlier, Nick Foles. I said I was not extremely confident in his ability to be your championship-winning quarterback. At $4,700, he doesn't have to be. He's still priced like a backup. It's just incredibly cheap. It allows you to do things like pay up for 2 of the top running backs on the slate, or maybe dip into the Saints-Pittsburgh game, which should be a high-scoring game. But Pittsburgh burned me last week, putting up a whopping 27 combined with the Patriots, I believe. But it should be a game that you want to pour all of your roster money into. The way you do that is by paying $4,700 for Nick Foles. And then in tournaments, I love Jared Goff, $6,400. He's had a few bad weeks in a row, but as we know, scoring is pretty volatile on a weekly basis, and their implied total is 30.75, highest of the slate. That's all things I want to buy into to get a low ownership quarterback.
Yeah, I like that Arizona matchup for them. We're a little worried about the Saints. They're averaging 19 points going into the Carolina game against a horrible defense, a spiraling downward defense, and managed 12. Horrifying to me. Justin, who do you like at quarterback?
I tend to agree with Kyle as far as Nick Foles. I mean, he's not a quarterback. The guy's got the confidence, the experience. You pair him up with Alshon Jeffrey, who's also very affordable on DraftKings, and this way you can pay up at running back. I'm going to pay a little up. I like Cam Newton at home against the Atlanta Falcons. He knows this team well. Teed off against them early in the season, week 2. Did his thing. Look, Cam Newton is not Dan Marino. He's not Tom Brady. We know what Cam Newton is. He's had struggles in the past. Ton of weaponry around him. Sound running game. I love it. I love Cam Newton at home. So I'm going to go with Kyle, with Nick Foles. I also like Cam Newton. Two other names that I'll throw at you right now is I like Dak Prescott, high over-under in that game against the Bucs. I think he's going to be able to do whatever he wants to do against Tampa Bay, bounces back in tournaments. People are going to be off him because he was burned him at Indianapolis. I like this Dallas Cowboys team. I've touched on their defense. I think they're a fast defense. They have all the ingredients to run into the playoffs. So Dak Prescott in tournaments. And one more name, I will play Josh Allen. I wish he was a little cheaper. I won't have a ton of them, but they're probably going to be down at Gillette Stadium. He's done nice things with his legs. I think he's just fine in tournaments. But as far as cash games, it's going to be Nick Foles. I love the price tag.
Yeah, I think Cam in tournaments because you'll be the only one playing him.
Yep.
Ownership might be low after a 7-point outing against the Saints, and that's always something you're looking for. Yep. I don't like the way he looks, but I do get the approach if the price is right. Because that is the thing about DFS. You can play it. I love the way Kyle put that about Foles. I mean, and we all know this. This is the reason you play DFS, and this is the reason why we have a whole palette of colors at our disposal, and each one is a player, and the price is part of it. So let's look at running backs, Justin. Who do you like?
It's a deep position, and if I'm going to pay up, I don't think Todd Gurley needs to play this week. I mentioned the Dallas game. I like Zeke Elliott. I think you have to love Christian McCaffrey. He was another player that you could justify pairing him up with Cam Newton at Atlanta. Nick Foles allows you to do that, to have two or three of these players with the Saquon Barkleys or the Kamara. But look, I'm not getting off Joe Mixon at this point in time. 7,100. I think he's going to be one of the best running backs in the game in the next couple of years. It was all over him last week. Going to be another Joe Mixon week for me. If I'm paying way down, and again, it's Tuesday night, we record early. There's probably 10 running backs I love tonight. I also love Marlon Mack. But if I'm going to pay way down, you mentioned Kalen Ballage. Give me some of him at his price tag, $3,900 at home against the Jaguars. Paying for volume there, absolutely fine with that. And it'll be interesting to see if Leonard Fournette plays because we know with TJ Yeldon, 4K, he's capable of handling a load as well. I'm fine with that price tag, but it's early in the week, so we'll have to see how things shake out later in the week.
Talk to Tony Smith from 1010 XL in Jacksonville about the anticipated role for Fournette. Nobody down there knows what's going on. When this guy's back there returning kickoffs, it's a big issue. Watch his foot. He hurt it on the last play. Could be a little bit of thing. Talk to young Marlon Mack this very evening, about 2 hours ago, and he's very enthusiastic coming off his big game. Kyle, is it trustworthy, the role?
Yeah, I actually have that. I have him in my notes as a guy I wanted to get this week. 5,500 for a guy who I do believe that the Colts, it appears as though whenever he's healthy, they're giving him the ball. He seems like their clear lead back, and he's been particularly efficient this year, which is something in the past he wasn't able to do as much. He's efficient this year. He's combining with volume, and he gets to face the Giants, who have given the 7th most points to opposing running backs. I think it's all set up for at least a great value. I think the thing is that last week, his amazing game is probably going to get him super high ownership, considering the price, 5,500. For a guy getting the volume he gets, the ownership's going to be really high this week, so I think maybe best to suit him into your cash games, but I do love him just as a play in your season-long leagues like we talked about earlier, or in your cash games this week.
Who else do you like at running back, Kyle?
I'm surprised. I mean, it makes sense with how DraftKings does their pricing. Saquon Barkley, 7,900, just had like one bad game, and now he's down to 7,900 when you've got guys like Zeke up at 9K. Indy allows the most targets to opposing running backs. They're one of the worst teams, I guess, best for fantasy, worst for real-life football, in giving up receptions, targets, and receiving yards to opposing backs. And what does Saquon Barkley do so extremely well? Who are they missing? Odell Beckham. He catches a ton of passes. It's just set up for the best Saquon Barkley week of all time. And one more guy I like, paying down a little bit, at least get a little bit of savings. 4,900 for Sony Michel this week. They're 13-point favorites over the Bills. If they get out to an early lead, you can just see them running Michel into the ground, because what else are they going to do?
Right, I was kind of interested. I looked at the usage last week, and I mean, he is still locked in as that frontline guy, and it seems like maybe James White's diminishing a little bit. What do you think about that, Justin? Is White's role kind of over?
I was asked, Adam Ronis asked me the same question earlier this evening, and try to get into the mind of Bill Belichick. Good luck. I think it varies week to week. I think as a whole, James White is the centerpiece of this Patriots offense, right? But from a fantasy angle, he's going to thrive when he has 6, 7, 8 receptions. So it's game script predicated. I would 100% agree with Kyle. They jump out early, and like you said, Bob, it looks like Sony Michel is the front runner. He was drafted to replace Dion Lewis, in my opinion. I think you're going to see 20 more carries from Sony Michel. Has not been productive by any stretch, though, the last couple of weeks, but they're continuing to feed him the ball. So if they do jump out in front by a couple touchdowns, we could see Sony Michel have 25 carries, 100 yards, and his price is certainly right. But again, James White, has certainly come back down to earth, but make no mistake about it, and his price is affordable. He's a centerpiece. He's one of the centerpieces of this New England Patriots offense.
You can only have one centerpiece.
That's true. That's
Kyle
true.
Dvorchak, tell me a happy story about wide receivers.
Well, I can tell you a happy story about Stephon Diggs, my darling wide receiver. Been owning him in all of my dynasty leagues, and I thought this was the year. It's finally time for him. He had Antonio Brown comps in the past few years when people saw what he could do, and then Adam Thielen drank his milkshake. But in the past 5 games, he's out-targeting 48 to 40 targets. I think Diggs is at least pushing for where early in the season it was so clearly Adam Thielen was the guy. And now the targets say Diggs is the guy, and when you watch them play, it's at least a very significant difference from earlier in the season. I think Diggs is the guy now. I believe, follow the volume. That's what we're here to do. Bob, you preach it every week. I'm listening, and I'm preaching to you. Stephon Diggs is a guy I love this week, and we talked about Jared Goff earlier. I want to stack him with Robert Woods. Hasn't really had a blow-up spot since earlier in the year, but he's consistently getting targets, averaging 10 targets over the last 4 games. A guy I love. And then you talked about him earlier as well. Robert Foster has hit 90 yards in 4 of his last 5 games. He's only 4,900. His price has risen a little bit, but he's under 5,000 still. I think if you're paying down at wide receiver, he's a guy I love, and they should probably be throwing a lot because Vegas expects them to get crushed. That's what you do when you're down, is you throw to try and catch up. It might not work, but it also might get him a long touchdown, which is what you're looking for in DFS.
Yeah, I will say about Stephon Diggs, it just seems like he's been, a full healthy season away from that huge breakout, that kind of season that we expect from him. And he's been healthy this year. I think maybe we're still a year away from the big breakout, but he's playing damn good football. Justin, your wide receiver, sir.
The Antonio Brown comp is beautiful, and I've mentioned it in the past, so I love it. And I agree with you, Kyle. You're getting a discount when you take Stephon Diggs this week over Adam Thielen. I do like Diggs. I think he's on a heater right now. We got to take him. Right up top, I mean, if I was to instill confidence 100% in a wide receiver at this point in time, I think it would be Davante Adams. I like Davante Adams. He's had 37 targets over the last 3 weeks, just getting force-fed by Aaron Rodgers. He's just about a lock for 20 to 22 DraftKings points every week. Give me some Davante Adams. I'm fine with DeAndre Hopkins against a terrible Eagles defense. On the road, though, and you do have to spend a little more money. Again, it's only Tuesday, so there's a ton of players that we're going to like. I think Jarvis Landry clicking at the right time. Jarvis Landry has shown us in the past he can get 10 receptions, 11 receptions. Fine with Jarvis Landry as well. Paying way down, I was asked about Robbie Anderson this week, and I certainly like Robbie Anderson, 4,500 at home, 11 targets last week, 7 targets week 14, 7 targets week 13. Give me some Robbie Anderson. We know what he is. He's a 6'4" string bean, very athletic, not a lot of talent on the Jets offense. I can see him having 8 to 10 targets and probably getting the end zone. I love him at 4,500.
I like everyone you're dishing up on this, both of you guys. I thought that was great. And Anderson in particular seems like a hot play. Foster as well. Tight ends, Justin, go.
Oh, do we have to?
We have to. And no Blake Jarwin. I already had reserved him for me.
Yeah, definitely. A couple months ago, it would have been Jeff Swain. And Jeff Swain, and that somebody has to replace Jason Witten, right?
A few months before that, it'd have been Rico Gathers.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Mediocrity at its worst. But give me Zach Ertz to get back on track in a pivotal game for the Philadelphia Eagles. 101 receptions, over 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns. We could make an argument tonight Zach Ertz is the best tight end in the NFL. 5,900, you're getting wide receiver production. Give me some Zach Ertz. I'm not going to get too cute, gentlemen, because once you get under, I I trusted Austin Hooper last week. Nope. A goose egg. I knew he was a little dinged up. It's going to be Zach Ertz for me this week, and I'm not paying down. I'm not going to swim into the depths of the sea of mediocrity, because it can really get you hurt. So for me, it's tonight, I'm zooming in on Zach Ertz, and really not much outside it. Maybe David Njoku at home. We like Baker Mayfield, but he's a volatile player. He's coming into his own. It's going to take time. He's a freak. His price is right at $3,800, but it's Zach Ertz, and it might be damn near 100% Zach Ertz for me.
Just to alleviate your concerns, nobody's going to accuse you of getting too cute. Kyle, who's your tight end?
Yeah, I love Zach Ertz. I think that's a guy I'll be focusing in on. If you really need a punt play, I like CJ Uzomah. Well, like is a strong word, but he's my Justin's cute of tight ends. Sure, if you squint, yeah, I could get into some CJ Uzomah, just because without AJ Green, they've got to find somebody. He's a guy who's been able to catch touchdowns this year, and when you pay down for a tight end, really you just want a few targets, 40 yards and a touchdown. He's been able to do that. He's hit, I think, 5 points in like 4 of his last 5 games. It's not a beautiful play by any means, but Cleveland also gives up the 3rd most points to tight ends. If we're looking down at punt plays, I think the matchup makes him a worthwhile guy at just $3,300 this week.
I'm interested in this. So my recent tournament choices on defensive playing, whoever's playing Arizona, served me well this past weekend. Thank you, Atlanta. Who do you like on defense this week, Justin?
Again, it's Tuesday, so it's very early, and the one team that caught my eye for some reason was the Minnesota Vikings. They got to Matt Stafford a couple weeks ago. Was it 10 times? Sub-K, divisional game on the road. The Vikings, I think, are coming into their own, too. It was nice to see what Dalvin Cook was capable of doing. Give me some of the Vikings in a divisional game, getting at Matt Stafford. If I'm going to pay way down, we like defenses at home. I like the Dallas Cowboys against Jameis in the pick 6 bucks, 2,600. But again, it's early in the week, and I'll have to figure things out more as time goes by.
Interesting. Kyle, I bet you have a good answer.
I think I have a good answer. I'm looking at the Dallas Cowboys. I just feel confident in playing whoever Tampa Bay plays against. They don't have that extremely explosive offense we saw in the first few weeks of the season. And the past 2 weeks have been that endeavor has been fruitful. We had the Ravens and the Saints in the past 2 weeks, both of which had good fantasy games. Cowboys defense looks particularly good. I think this is just a play teams against Tampa Bay, because they turn the ball over a ton. They haven't scored as many points recently. It just feels like, especially at 2,600 savings from some of the more pricey defenses, that I can really get myself into Dallas, especially if I'm stacking them with Zeke and going for a more differentiated lineup at least.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm going to be hard-pressed to stay away from the Rams because Josh Rosen.
Yeah.
And by the way, I bust on Justin, but only because I care a little.
I know. You certainly care. You care you care for sure. It's a great spot for the Cowboys to bounce back at home. I love that with Zeke Elliott. And look, gentlemen, you heard it here. I think the Cowboys are going to make a run into the playoffs. Nice call, Kyle.
Yeah, I would agree with that. All right, then. So let's wrap it up, kids.
Kyle?
Sorry, I was drinking kombucha. I ate moldy salsa earlier. That's how the show ends, guys. That's the show ending. I ate moldy salsa, and now I'm drinking stuff and trying to not get really sick. That's the show, everyone. That's you're more on co-host is ending the show that way, and I'm not proud of it, but that's how the show has come to a close. I'm gonna go get sick. I've been one of your co-hosts. Find me on Twitter at FFKyleTheKid. You can find Justin at Justin Lonero. Find Bob at Football Diehard. See you next week, everyone.